back, listeners and viewers, to another week of Education, the Teacher's Talking Terror podcast, where myself, Mike,
and myself, Courtney,
are back with a special guest this week. It's been a while since we've seen her beautiful face, but we've got my daughter Ella on the show. And you know what it means when you've got Ella on the show. It means we're covering a Scream movie. So we are back to cover Scream 6.
And Ella, I'm just going to say real quick, these 6 have been like my favorite because I'm happy you brought Scream into my life, Ella, because it's like my favorite little franchise now.
It really is. And that's what's nice is we'll get into it, but it has been a solid franchise.
Yes.
Like even part 4, which was kind of a dud, 3 wasn't, but even when it comes to duds, it's still like scratches that itch. It's better than a lot. And so that's good. So welcome, Ella.
Hi.
There you go. And you're sad though, aren't you? Tell the listeners and viewers why you're a little sad.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh. I'm sad?
Yeah.
Why am I sad?
Well, is there another Scream movie to cover after this one?
No.
I thought you were sad.
She didn't sound happy pre-recording when she was like, this is the last one, right? Isn't it, Dad? There's not another one, right, Dad?
Yeah. They are working on a Scream 7 that'll come out next year. And I have already read that Jenna Ortega has checked out of that one, that she's not going to be in Scream 7. So what's the point then? I mean, if Sydney's gonna be there and Jenna Ortega's not gonna be there, I can't even think what her character's name is off the top of my head.
I know.
I'm like,
Tara.
Tara, there you go. It's like, what's the point? She's clearly the most popular actress in the movie, but good for her, because I heard she held up for, I think it was like contract reasons. But good for you. Get paid, girl. Get paid. So, all right. Well, Scream 6. This one takes place, like all of them do, like a year later. Everything always seems to be a year later in this universe, except for like the 11-year gaps between 3 and 4 and 4 and 5. Yeah. Everything's always like the next year. One thing I'll give credit to as well is, even though they've moved from Wes Craven because he had passed to, new writers and directors, they've done a really good job of at least keeping like story and character continuity in these movies. I know that, this is like movie 64 for us, but we still haven't covered this is the only film that we've covered like the whole franchise.
Yeah.
We've covered a Halloween, we've covered a Nightmare, we've covered a couple Fridays. But even if you were to watch those, like the continuity is rocky. Like there's not a lot of linear storytelling going on. This one, like they're constantly referencing events of the past, characters of the past. And they do a pretty solid job of at least making it believable. So let's dive in and see how believable Scream 6 ends up being.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say, so we are at Blackmore University, where we've got a professor that talks about, oh man, now it just left me. She teaches this like media class.
Right.
That focuses on
slashers.
Slashers, yes. I wanted to say screamers, and I knew that wasn't the word. Slashers. And so she's meeting up on this blind date, and eventually we come to find out she's been catfished to head down a dark alley.
And we're in New York City, by the way.
Yes.
Why? I don't know, because unlike every other horror film I've ever seen in New York City, this movie does nothing to showcase that they're in New York.
No.
There's no Times Square. There's no there's no, Union Station. There's no Central Park. It's just, we told you we're in New York. So
Is this the lady that I said looked like a rabbit?
Yeah. Our professor here, played by Samara Weaving, in much the same way, because there's one thing that I will say, and I think you could attest to this, and I think our listeners and viewers will too. There is definitely a formula for a Scream question, for a Scream movie. Mm-hmm. Definitely a formula. We always start out with a cold open where somebody dies, and in most cases, it's somebody like played by an actress that's popular. Like Samara Weaving's been in some stuff, and she's popular-ish. I mean, you may not have recognized her, but as soon as I saw her, I'm like, hey, it's Samara Weaving. Yeah. And so it's one of those, like, just like it was like, hey, it's Drew Barrymore.
Yep.
Hey, it's Kristen Bell and Anna Paquin. You know, like, it's always that there's somebody. Hey, it's Jada Pinkett and Omar Epps. Like, you know, somebody quasi-famous is at the beginning.
The fifth one was Jenna Ortega.
Yeah. But she wasn't killed, thank goodness.
I bumped the desk. That's how fragile things are. Yeah, so it's, yeah, and even Jenna Ortega, like you said in the last one, she did get attacked, and we were led to believe, like, oh my God, you're going to kill Jenna Ortega. And of course, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, thankfully she stayed with us.
She seemed to heal, like, very quickly.
Yeah, she's got superpowers.
Yeah.
She was in the hospital for a little bit, and then in this one, she's just, like, back to normal.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So we find out that, which I thought was kind of cool, like how the killer just kind of like
yeah, that was a different
right off the bat
test.
Because I was like, oh, okay, like we usually don't see that. Usually it's like, okay, who's the killer? And it was one of her students, Jason, wearing the ghost face. And he blamed her for failing his class. So him and his boyfriend Greg are going to finish off the Carpenter sisters, Sam and Tara, and Greg was just like not happy that Jason went ahead and tasted the kill before him because he just kills Jason.
I don't know. Are this many people really like homicidal? It just seems so effortless. Like, you know, in all of our movies, we've had killers and we've built up about the kills. Like, and there's always a motive. And then when Jason pops up, it's just like, I failed. Like, you straight murdered her.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, which, I mean, I'm not saying I do this, but you couldn't have just stabbed her
or even just scare her and leave.
Like,
but you're like, nope, I murdered her. She is now dead. And I'm gonna go home and watch a movie now. Like,
yeah.
Now he is definitely gonna fail her class because she's not there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
now all that work is just a waste.
Doesn't work out in Jason's favor though, because is he really talking to Greg on the phone? No, he's not. It's one of my first issues. You know, I have them because that's just me. But like, I don't understand how these voice modulators can perfectly match the voice tone of a person just because.
I don't either.
I just don't get it. Like we are living in 2023, almost 2024, and we don't even have that in real life. I feel. But these people are like, just Jason ends up talking to somebody else. Like it's somebody who ends up killing Jason, and had already killed Greg. We find Greg chopped up in the refrigerator before Jason gets killed. I only mentioned that because it's like, when did the killer get Greg's voice in the modulator? I mean, there is AI technology out there that can record your voice and therefore, and then mimic it. But you have to read, like, because I looked into it, you have to read like several minutes of content. Like they give you a document so that they know how you say different sounds and different words or whatever. But you read this content into a microphone and it records your voice. And then from there, it can create it, artificially. But that's on a computer. That's not on a voice modulator held in front. Granted, I know it's a fictional film, but come on, you still got to live in the realm of reality a bit. So, long story short, the first Ghostface, like you said, that we see peel off the mask and reveal himself. Did you think that this was really the killer for the movie?
No, I was kind of tossed up because I was like, okay, maybe they're switching things up. Like, this is the sixth movie. Maybe we will know one of the killers, but just not the rest. But then, I mean, obviously, once he got back to his apartment, it was like, all right.
And I took it as, I don't know this guy. He's not the killer. He's a killer, but he's not the killer because I don't know this guy.
Right.
Like.
Yeah, like he's not the mastermind.
And you're right. Maybe it was a situation where the director's like, hey, everybody's expecting a certain formula for these films. Let's switch it up. They didn't switch it up. Newsflash.
I remember when we were watching the last one, you were like, it'd be cool if they showed the killer and then we knew who it was, but the other people didn't. So I thought that's what they did, but then
you're right.
I was
they almost did that. I had forgotten I'd said that, but they didn't. Jason dead, Greg dead. And now we have a killer that we have to fear. Like we know that now. This was just more buildup. So we have a real killer now. We just don't know who it is. And we also haven't seen Sam and Tara, which, like you mentioned, we're at Blackmore College, where apparently there's a group discount.
Yeah, if you've been attacked by Ghostface,
they'll take you.
Go ahead. If you have, it's one of those like Mean Girls. Like if you've been publicly victimized by Ghostface, group rate, and guess what? It's better than the Chicago.
Oh, I bet, because that one actually costs more to go with people. But this situation is like we've got Sam, Tara, Chad, and Mindy, all from Woodsboro, California. That's where the Woodsboro is. It's California. Woodsboro, California are now all, well, Sam's not. Sam's just there for moral support. But Tara, Chad, and Mindy have all been accepted into Blackmore College, apparently allowed to live like right next to each other. Like it's a perfect living arrangement for these guys. So so they all get to go and watch each other's back, and Sam also gets to go, and Tara clearly has forgotten what happened a year ago because she hasn't processed it yet, because she was almost murdered by her best friend, and now is suddenly like, I don't need protection. I'm free to roam about the country. Yeah. Like, just leave me alone, Sam. That got a little obnoxious early on because it's like, you guys clearly bonded. Yeah. And now you're like, oh, get out of my life.
She was at the party and like she came in, Sam came in and like brought her out of the party, and she was like, why are you here?
Exactly. Like, leave me alone. Like, you know exactly why she's there, Tara. Quit being an idiot. Even Chad and Mindy are on Sam's side. You know, they're like, Tara, did you forget that we all almost died? We also meet our new characters. We meet Tara's roommate, Quinn, who's a redhead and apparently very friendly. We meet Mindy's girlfriend, Annika. She wasn't... Ella, you said she was from the part 5. Was she in part 5? I don't think she was. I knew that Mindy had a girlfriend that she like started to be with at the party in part 5, but I don't think it was this lady. I think this is new.
Because I thought it was, because then like Ghostface came up behind them and then they both like ran.
Right. Let me look that up real quick. Devin Nakota, and now this is her first Scream movie, so she didn't play the same. So she was not Mindy's girlfriend in part 5. So Mindy also is apparently very friendly. And we meet Ethan, the new roommate for Chad. Of course, Chad and Mindy are twins. And they each have roommates now. So good for them. Sam's in therapy, which is good because she has a lot to process.
Yeah.
This movie felt kind of chunky at times. Like it just kind of jumps scene to scene to scene. You know, we meet the new characters. Then we jump to Sam in therapy, where she opens up as she should, and apparently the therapists in New York are soft and very afraid because they're afraid of her because she's going.
Yeah, she said that, and then he got up and like left the room.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not equipped to handle this. Like, yeah, you are.
Yeah, like she just. I mean, she
not
just
only
said
that,
that,
but
like
you took her on as a patient.
Yeah, you should have known what she had. And come on, you're a therapist in
like
New
you've
York
seen
City.
worse.
Like you've you've definitely heard this before.
And so what we really find out is Sam, the truth about Sam and Woodsboro has been manipulated by social media. Because Sam did go crazy on Richie killing him in the last movie.
Yeah, she's told that to the therapist, and then he like asked about it, and she said that it felt right, and then that's when he got up and left.
Yeah, almost like, oh, you're clearly a killer. Yeah. It's like, no, that's not the case. And so we do find out that Sam's battling the truth, that the quote unquote fake news has made her socially, at least social media wise, into the killer. Like she's the bad person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which isn't true. Online conspiracy that she was really behind all the killings from a year ago.
I had a feeling if she was the killer, they wouldn't like show as much as what they did of her.
Right. And we watched part 5. We know she wasn't the killer.
Right. Yeah.
And we meet another new character, Detective Bailey, who happens to be Quinn's dad. And what was found is at the murder scene of Jason and Greg, Sam's driver's license was found on the scene.
I don't think they ever explained why it was there.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But Sam's ID was found on the scene, and so naturally the police are like, "We got to bring you in for questioning because, understandably so, your ID was found at a murder scene. You are obviously a suspect now, despite the fact that it was dropped conveniently into a pile of blood. Like it just was like clearly it was placed there. At least to me, it looked like it wasn't dropped; it was placed, but." Whatever.
If it was dropped, it'd probably have like blood all over it.
Right.
But they showed it, and it was just like perfectly clean and everything.
Yeah, it was just like sitting next to blood.
Yeah.
And what they also found was the Ghostface mask, and this is where they're tying it to Sam a little bit too. The Ghostface mask found at the scene of Jason and Greg's murder was the same Ghostface mask that Richie and Amber wore in part 5. They found DNA evidence on it. So now we're getting really weird because, one would think that all of that evidence would be taken care of in Woodsboro, California. Keep in mind, we are now in New York City. So how did this mask get out of evidence in California and into a murder scene in New York? So what we got here? Sam's got to go to the police station, and she and Tara's going with her, which is odd because, like you'd already mentioned, Sam or Ella, you'd mentioned like Tara went to a party, some guy was trying to hook up with her. She was open to it. Even Mindy and Chad were against it. Sam shows up, tases the guy in his boy parts. Really, I think that whole scene was set to introduce our new characters, but also establish that Sam and Tara still are not like in a perfect place. Which made it weird when Sam was going to the police station. When Sam was going to the police station, and then Tara's like, "I'm going with you because you can't be alone." Like, you just fought for your independence. Like leave me alone, but you're not going to be alone. And Sam gets a phone call from who, Ella?
It says from Richie's phone.
Yeah, she gets a call from Richie, but of course, it's not Richie.
Yeah, and didn't she just, like, ignore it?
The first I think so. I don't remember.
Because I think she ignored it then,
I'm
but then
sure
when they were
did.
like walking down the street, she got called by him again, and she
she ignored the first one, but not the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tara gets jumped by Ghostface right on the street, and delivers a sharp elbow to his face, and then they run and they go hide in a bodega, a little convenience store. And this was a pretty sweet scene. I really like this scene. It was a lot of fun too, watching this for the first time with Ella. Because the first 5 we've watched together, but she's kind of leaned on me a little bit, knowing that I knew what was going on.
I would keep asking you stuff, and you would just tell me you didn't know.
I'm like, I don't know. I've not seen it, but it was fun watching because
the scene was very tense.
Yes. You really wore your emotions on your sleeve in this movie. There was a lot of, oh no, don't do that, no. And this scene in particular. So, Courtney, what happened in this scene?
So we head up into this scene where they're in this like little convenience store, and the clerk is going to help them, and Ghostface follows in. To where there's a lot of like back and forth of, there weren't many people in there, but they were killed off. Then you've got Sam and Tara who are hiding and coming down because Ghostface has now killed the clerk. And so they're hiding in behind, and I don't know, it's kind of hard to, it's not hard to explain, but I feel like I'm just kind of roundabouting it because it's like you're watching them through like the mirror of the corner trying to sneak away, and Ghostface is just getting closer and closer to them. So I was very, very much like, oh my goodness. It was at this point that I thought, well, like what happens here? Yeah, so basically it's one of those that you watch, they're throwing like a can of something to kind of get Ghostface to look the other way, like, oh, maybe I heard something from over there. And honestly, like, I don't really remember how they escaped from there. Did Ghostface just like up and leave? Like,
they
did he just kind of give up?
And got Ghostface to go the other way. So then they took off running out the front. As the police showed up.
Yes.
Yeah, because they tried to escape out the back door, but the keys were in like the worker's pocket, so they couldn't get the back door open. Mm-hmm. But yet Ghostface apparently got the keys, figured which key opened the door, unlocked it, and took off out the back.
Didn't he leave his? Isn't every single kill that?
Because that all ties back in later with who all the masks belong to.
Well, the person is just like running around.
Yeah, just running around in a cloak,
just showing
and no mask. And this scene was also kind of scary because I don't really remember in any of the previous 5 movies Ghostface using a gun. Eventually, like in part 2, like Mickey and Mrs. Loomis both had a gun, but they weren't Ghostface at the time. And so this was a little weird because it was like we saw Ghostface on the hunt with a shotgun, something that we haven't seen, because it's like you can outrun a knife, like you can outrun an axe, or but you can't outrun a bullet, and so this was a little tense.
Yeah.
But then some of them, like, they had a gun, but they weren't in like their outfits.
we knew that they were the killer, and now having a gun was like whatever. But at the time, it was a little weird. Mm-hmm. And so we're back at the police station, and we find out that the FBI has arrived, and they want a part of it. This is probably my first eye roll of the movie, where when they meet with FBI Special Agent Kirby Reed, who survived part 4. Yes. Well, no, we knew she wasn't dead in part 4. We knew she survived the stabbing, but FBI training.
Where was she at?
Like,
Where? She
Quantico,
disappeared for 2 movies.
But yeah, so she survived and she's back, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's Kirby." Conveniently, she went to high school with Sam in Woodsboro, so there is a connection that which fine, whatever. They didn't have to build up this whole hugging. Who were you again? You know, like we did last movie with Sydney and Gale meeting Sam and Tara. They had no idea who each other were. But in this one, it's like, oh, Kirby? Yeah, it's like, yeah. You, again, somebody you knew from California, you're running into in New York City. And Gale's back. Mm-hmm. And Gale.
I'm pretty sure she can just spawn.
She can be anywhere she needs to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember where they were, but they were just walking, and then
they were leaving the police station. She was just there, and all the news crew are like, Tara, do you feel safe with your sister? Tara, if you feel safe with your sister, and then Gale steps into scene, and Gale Weathers, Channel 5 News, and oh gosh, they turn around,
and then they both
Sam
tries
to punch her, and Gale dodges it, ooh, been there, done that. It's because again, so much of this movie is Scream 2. They're at college with their friends. Blankety blank happens. Ghostface is the parent, in part 2, Ghostface was the parent of a killer in part 1. In part 5, the final scene takes place in Stu Macher's house, just like it did in part 1. It's like part 1 through 4 told some sort of storyline with Wes Craven. Part 5 and 6 are kind of mimicking parts 1 and 2. And so we get a lot of, in part 2, it was part 1 where Gale gets punched in the face by Sydney. So in part 6, she's ready for a punch. It's fun, but it's almost too fun. You're not, they're just having too much fun with what they're trying to do. It's like, we get it. You're making a Scream movie about Scream movies. We get it. Oh, you're just in New York.
But Sam tried to punch her, and then she dodged, and then when
Tara,
she came back,
Tara nailed her, and she was
Tara
see that coming? Of course not, because in part 1, you only got punched once. So Gale's back, and Sam and Tara genuinely feel betrayed because Gale wrote a book about everything that happened. Just like she did in part 2, writing a book about the events of part 1. And so they're like, you promised you wouldn't write about it. And Gale's like, somebody was going to. Might as well have been me. We do get a nice scene. I really liked it when Gale said, I've spoken to Sydney. She's gone into hiding to protect her family. I really did like that, especially because Sydney, they lowballed her an offer to be in this movie. Neve Campbell, they offered her to be in it, and they offered her way too little money, and she walked away from it. She's like, my character's been integral to the entire franchise, and now you're going to lowball me? And it's me.
Scream
and
franchise.
So good for her, but also good for the crew to not just completely ignore her, because a lot of times you see that happen where they're like, well, she don't want to be in our movie, then we're not going to pay attention to her either. But I thought they handled it pretty classy. Of Sydney's gone into hiding with her family when all this kicked back up, and so it's like that's where she's at. So we did get a little bit of, I guess, I wouldn't even call it closure. It kind of still opens the door to where, do you want to be in part 7?
Yeah. If we pay you enough, will you come back?
At least for me, and Ella, you kind of sniffed this out too. We get the first real indicator that we kind of know who the killer might be. The next person we see get murdered is Sam's therapist. And we had just seen a scene where Sam, after Jason and Greg's killing, revealed to Detective Bailey that she sees a therapist. She told him who it was. And then we go see this guy get murdered. And then we see Sam's file get stolen. At least for me, I didn't say anything to you, Ella, but you kind of sniffed it out too. The only person that would have known who the therapist was the detective she just told.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like the detective
Right.
and then their like group of friends.
And the friends may not even have known who the therapist was. Because apparently she was going through them quickly. And when Dr. Stone is murdered, another mask is left behind, and this was the mask from part 4.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yep.
This was part 3. The
Hollywood
3.
ones.
Yeah.
The movie.
The part 3 masks.
Okay.
That scene was kind of gross.
Yeah,
he
come bashing through the glass and like got him like right in the cheek.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right though. So then we get a scene where they're all like in a park, and Mindy, of course, Mindy is Randy's niece, so Mindy gets to be the new Randy. As she's going on about, oh, there's new rules, and we have to, these movies play by the rules, and all these killings, and long story short, it's just laying it out there for what could possibly happen. Any of us could die. Mm-hmm. Anybody.
There was a lot of times where she thought she had it.
That was kind of a fun little through line joke where, like, she kept, like you said, she kept thinking she had figured out who the killer was, and then every time she was wrong, she was like, "Oh, I thought I had it." So, but yeah, so we're back in Tara and Quinn's apartment.
Yeah, and it gets pretty wild here.
We're talking like killer in your house wild.
Yeah. Sam's boyfriend Danny sees through the window Quinn is being stabbed.
Quinn's established herself as a very promiscuous girl. So her being loud in her bedroom is something that Sam and Tara and everybody else is just used to.
Yep.
And so when they hear her... she had a boy over. Yeah, he was in the shower.
From like the bathroom or something.
And so it was like, okay. And then when everybody else hears or Quinn struggling in her room, they just assume she's with the guy. So they just ignore it. Except for sexy boyfriend. Danny. Yeah, he sees Quinn getting murdered.
Yeah.
They were building him up to be weird.
I had a feeling at this part that he wasn't the killer because he was trying to get their attention, but before that he was just kind of weird.
Yeah, they did build it up to it's like, it's the love interest.
Yeah, and like, why was he so mysterious for a while? Yeah. Because it's like, you know, I mean, which I get it. She wanted to keep it on the down low, but still. Yeah, so then this is just kind of where it all goes crazy because now they're like, the door opens and Ghostface comes out and like, Quinn has been stabbed to death. Yeah.
Like Ghostface,
because they were like Quinn and he just like shoves her like through the door, not literally through the door, but
through the doorway.
And she like landed on some people and they were like screaming.
So they're freaking out. Ghostface is of course kind of chasing them around through the apartment. And everybody kind of escapes. Then we get
Sam runs like the kitchen
that's right.
To look for
she
like a knife,
go to the knife block, and all the knives are gone. So it was like orchestrated. They lock.
Yeah,
she just grabbed the block.
Yeah, we get Sam
and threw it at him.
Sam, Tara, Mindy, and Annika are like trapped in a bedroom. And Hunky Boyfriend has a very long ladder in his apartment. In his apartment. It just dawned on me right now. Why does he have this giant ladder in his apartment?
Yeah. Like, what are you doing in your apartment with that big ladder?
He stretches it and like...
Wasn't Mindy
and Annika, they've both been cut or stabbed.
Yeah, Annika was like stabbed in the stomach, and she was trying to stop it.
And so he sends this ladder across to create like a catwalk between the two apartments.
That part was like stressful because it was just like shaking.
Sam and Tara go first because they're healthy, and because we need to make sure that they live. So they go first and they make it across okay, and then Mindy went, right?
Yes, because Anna she was really hurt. One.
So Mindy went.
Yeah.
Because Mindy was trying to like hold the door shut with that like drawer thing, and Annika.
So Mindy went across, and now we've got Annika, the person who we've only known for a little bit and really don't care about. So now she's on the ladder trying to make it across, and this is where Ghostface busts in, and now we've got Ghostface on one end of the apartment ladder and the crew on the other end, and Annika in the middle. He gets to shaking the.
And he like grabs
gets to shaking that ladder, and guess who falls off the ladder? Annika, and it's pretty gruesome.
Yeah, she like she kind of like fell to one side.
Yeah, and she falls and lands safely in a pile of garbage bags, right? No, clocks her head off the dumpster on her way down, leaves a nice big red blood stain on it, and so Annika's dead. We don't see
it was like right here.
Yeah, like crushed her face in. She's dead.
Yeah.
And everybody's sad because it happens. Poor Mindy can't have a girlfriend.
And then that next day, they're all like out. I don't even know where they were. They were just like at the ambulance.
And when they get to the murder scene in the apartment, there's a Ghostface mask left. And this one is from the killings in part 2.
Yes.
So it's like, clearly we've got this through line of like, the killer's got access to all of this stuff. Gail, being the investigative journalist she is, she finds in New York, keep in mind, Gail, now granted, Gail did go to New York, but she finds this old abandoned theater. And this is where there's like been a shrine set up to Ghostface.
Yeah.
Wait, before that, they were like at the, like out in the park, and then like Ethan came up and they asked him where he was, and he said that he was at like
where
a
were
study
you?
thing.
Oh.
And he told them to ask like 100 other people.
Yeah, I was in a study session. You could go ask the 100 people I was there with, and they're like, "Oh, we take your word for it."
He was the only one.
You have no.
Yeah.
And he was the only one that wasn't there. So that's
you
when
did think it was him quite a bit.
Because he just
looks like a killer.
Like he's hiding stuff.
He just looks like a killer in a Scream movie.
He just like Amber in the last one. Like she just looks suspicious the whole time.
Yeah.
So we're in this Ghostface shrine, which is kind of goofy, but whatever.
They've kept all of the clothes of the dead people and put them on mannequins.
Yeah.
Very curious. Like, who's got the funding for all this? Like, they bought this place and...
Yeah.
So isn't that where they got all the masks from? Because I think all of the, like, Ghostface costumes...
Right, well, and this is where they pinned it on Jason and Greg. That Gail's like... The killers at the beginning, Jason and Greg, they had this Ghostface shrine in this old theater, blankety blank, yada yada. And so here's where we are. Like, and we're like, oh, okay, so somebody's really obsessed with Ghostface.
They reminded me of Richie because he was like really obsessed with the whole thing.
Ghostface, or Gail, goes back to her apartment because she's living in New York, which, to be fair, we knew that. Because in part 5, it established that she left Woodsboro, she and Dewey got divorced, and she went to New York to be an anchor. So we knew Gail actually lived in New York.
And by the time she got to her house, she had on like a jogging
probably, with all
outfit.
of this pressure and stress going on, she probably just went for a quick jog. Like, girls got to work out. Yeah.
Maybe she's just running away from Ghostface.
Gale's got a new boyfriend that we don't officially meet.
Yeah.
Ghostface calls Gale and starts like teasing her about Dewey's death. And then turns out Ghostface's been making the call from inside of Gale's apartment. As he gets thrown through the wall.
Yeah. And off's her boyfriend.
That part was kind of cool, though, like behind the wall.
Yeah, they did set that really cool, how they left that hole open and you could see Ghostface through. Yeah, they did do that pretty cool. But yeah, so
her boyfriend was there.
I don't remember him speaking, but he gets...
No.
He answered the phone and then said it was for her.
Right.
And then he just,
he gets murdered.
Away.
And then Ghostface and Gale go at it. This giant hulking man with muscles couldn't fight off Ghostface, but Gale has no problem. Because especially when Ghostface is like straddling her with a knife like above her face and Gale's just holding on, like no downward pressure, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
You're just going to lose. Not Gale, she wins. Gale. But she does get stabbed quite a bit. Like Sam and Tara just magically show up at Gale's apartment, which we did not know up to this point they even knew where she lived, but yet they had a key. So they show up.
So like, maybe that she gave them her that's spawning power.
Here's my special magic ring, ladies. So
I don't even remember if she lived or not.
She did.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did. Because Tara and Sam show up and scare Ghostface off before they kill her. So they get Gale to the hospital.
Oh.
And
I remember they like took her to the hospital and then she wasn't in the rest of the movie, so I didn't know.
So she's safe. They get Kirby. Kirby wants him to meet at the the theater because Kirby's got an idea to trap Ghostface. And so they're going to take a train.
At this point, Kirby was kind of suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got this idea. There. Yeah. And so they got to take a train to get there. This is the only really like New York thing in this whole movie was the subway.
Yeah.
The party decides to go, and Mindy and Ethan get separated from the group and don't get on the same train. So they catch...
What even caused them to be stuck on a different train?
A group of people got in between them. I've never been to New York, but I've been to large cities. People don't care. Like, they don't care if you're part of a group. If they want to get on the other side, they're going to go.
I remember she was trying to get on and then it closed and she was like,
right. Yeah, well, because he didn't want his twin sister separated because they knew there's power in groups. Yeah. So Mindy is very suspicious of Ethan. She doesn't want him to be around. They both.
He keeps calling him GF.
They get on. Do you know why she kept calling him GF, Ella? There you go. I didn't want you to think. I didn't want you to think it was a girlfriend.
That. The way she said it made it think like.
I know.
Maybe she didn't know.
But through text, she kept telling Chad, she was like, "I'm stuck with GF."
So they're on the next train, and of course, this train is the Halloween party train. Every possible Halloween costume you can think of is being worn by somebody on this subway car. Yeah,
and they were all horror.
It really was kind of fun to look into the background to see what different outfits people had on. But yeah, there's.
I kept looking at the Us one.
Pennywise was there. Pinhead was there. Jason was there. There's 72 ghost faces were there. And naturally, Mindy is very stressed and anxious about all the ghost face. She's got her eyes on one particular one.
Because the lights kept flickering, and then that one stood up, and then every time the lights flickered,
she kept backing up. And it was kind of a tense scene because we're like, wait a minute, Mindy already established that anybody can die. Like, are they really going to kill Mindy here?
Mm-hmm.
They sure are.
They sure are.
Mindy gets it. Lots of stabby stabs. Yep. And that's when Ethan's like, oh, crap. Like, because, again, the lights did go out. And she lowered her down.
Then they turn on, and then he, like, stares at her for a couple seconds. And then hits him.
Yeah, didn't know
He's in shock.
But what was stressful in that scene was because, like, one of them, like, came towards her, and then he just got off the train, and then there was, like, a bunch of them that she kept thinking it was
and it just didn't work.
Because, like, the lights would flicker, and then all of them would be
it was pretty creepy. So Mindy gets knifed. Sam and the group and the rest of them arrive at the theater. There's one mask left, and it's, of course, the original mask that Billy wore. So we know Sam is Billy's daughter. They have this dumb little hallucination again in the mirror.
That never makes sense because she wouldn't have seen him because he was dead.
You're absolutely.
So I don't know why.
You're absolutely right. Like you don't know what your dad looked like.
She probably wasn't even alive then.
She may not have been born, but she may not have been very old. But he could not have been the father if he was dead.
Maybe she was just in the house sneaking in on
she's
them
probably
and
with her
watching
mom.
him kill Sydney.
So Sam takes the knife after she realizes they've now been locked inside. So now they're super suspicious of Kirby because Kirby's the one that called them in there, and now suddenly they're locked in.
Well, and everything's leading to Kirby as well. Like, because they get a call saying, like, hey, Kirby's not really with the FBI. Let her go. She's got some mental issues.
And then they go and, like, try and go down the elevator thing, and it's, like, all locked up.
Yeah.
And then she's just, like,
we
gone.
get something we've never seen before. We get two ghost faces at the same time. And they attack Chad, and Chad gets it. Like, lots of knife action in Chad.
They stab him, like,
I know,
in each
they
of
just kind of go nuts, and he just goes, run! You know, because in all of that stabbing, no one punctured a lung. We get Detective Bailey and Kirby show up pretty much at the same time. They both got their guns drawn. And, of course, now we're like, you know, we're already suspicious of Kirby, and then Detective Bailey just shoots her and reveals himself.
Mm-hmm. And then when you were there, when we watched it, you like were like really surprised.
I was.
You were like
shoots Kirby and then reveals himself to be the third Ghostface. We've never had three Ghostface before. And even worse is he then reveals the other two Ghostface to be Quinn and Ethan.
Quinn, who we thought was dead this whole time.
Yeah, I was so confused. I was like, how was Quinn here?
Quinn and Ethan, who turn out to be his children. And they all are seeking revenge for the death of their big brother, Richie. Turns out Richie...
None of that made sense at all.
No, I agree. This got, you know...
The ending made me, like, disappointed.
Yeah. And Courtney and you and I talked about this yesterday. When Billy's mom showed up as the killer in part 2, we were surprised, but we understood because everybody knew who Billy was. Like, he was well established as Sydney's lover and then ended up being the killer. And then when we're doing this, as they talked about part 5 being a requel, kind of a relaunch sequel, Sam is our new Sydney. Richie's her boyfriend, who ends up being a killer, just like Billy ended up being a killer. The difference is nobody cared about Richie.
No, like they should have switched it, like had the dad, you know, detective be the killer in 5, and then maybe Richie's getting, I don't know, finishing up his dad's work or something.
But they should
have switched that.
They didn't try hard enough in part 5 to make Richie the new Billy. And because Richie...
Because for Billy, for Billy, they like made us think like it wasn't
right,
him.
yeah, like
we felt
like
bad
Wes Craven did a beautiful job of making him a suspect, not a suspect, a suspect, not a suspect, and then in the end, he turns out we see him die only for it to be fake.
Yeah,
with Richie, like nobody cared, like.
Yeah, like, no, like he was just the creepy older guy that
he was,
I guess
well,
was
yeah,
with
but
Amber.
he was Sam's boyfriend for the whole movie.
Yeah, but that's like all I remember him as.
Right when he revealed himself, he was like, "You never should have trusted me," and then I was like, "That's
it's
just,
like
he was just being mean."
Prince
about
Hans
it.
from the Southern Isles was a bigger twist than Richie. So when Detective Bailey reveals that Richie was my son and I'm a cop, so I masterminded this whole thing. Because apparently as a detective, you can get evidence from any police station in the country. You just steal it. Nobody's going to look for it. He bought that theater and put it in Jason and Greg's name. He's the one that made sure that Quinn and Ethan were roommates with the Woodsboro survivors. It just was like so much work. So much work.
Because he was like, it was so easy for Quinn to just make up all of this because everyone thought she was dead, so they just thought it was just coming from random people.
But
because he said all I had to do was just tell the people what she said and they would believe.
But it's like, it was just so much work to get this to happen 1 year later. So they're all just seeking revenge on Richie. Quinn was the one that started the online rumors about Sam being the killer. And apparently Quinn is quite the influencer. Because all it took was one TikTok, and then within a year, the entire country has turned on Sam. That's all it took. And so Sam and Tara fight back, as they do. Tara ends up, we get this where Tara's about to fall off a balcony and Sam's holding her. And Tara's like, the whole wraparound, you gotta let me go. Yeah. It's time, Sam, you gotta let me go. And Sam's like, I can't. She's like, no, seriously, like literally let me go. Give me the knife and let me go. So she goes down and she kills Ethan. Sam kills Quinn, like goes berserk on Quinn. And this is where we get like Detective Bailey gets knocked unconscious. Sam then finally adheres to her lineage and puts on Billy's ghost face mask, the whole costume, and got a hold of a voice modulator somewhere. They're all over. So
these movies.
Calls Detective Bailey. It ends up killing him. Ethan
and every time she kills someone, she goes like crazy.
Well, because she is Billy Loomis's daughter,
Yeah.
Because she was like stabbing him, and then Tara walked in, and then she like stopped because she didn't want to see
Tara's
her. And then Tara said to go, and then she like stabbed him right in the eye.
Like, did you use this?
Ethan, of course, pops up because you can't just die. And then we get another recap of Kirby from part 4 taking the TV from part 1 and smashing it on his head. It's like, Sam agrees in our wraparound epilogue. Sam's like, I'll let you live more independently. And Tara's like, I'm going to therapy. And we find out that Mindy, Chad, and Kirby are all still alive. Which means these Ghostface are pretty terrible.
I don't even know how Chad is still alive.
These Ghostface are terrible. You got two of them trying to kill Chad and couldn't do it.
Because, Chad came out on the bed with, the mask thing, and then Tara ripped it off and kissed him, and I was like...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the Tara and Chad romance. But you're right, Chad's on oxygen, and she just takes his oxygen off and starts kissing him. To kiss someone, you kind of hold your breath, and so you're actually doing him a lot of damage here, as he needs that oxygen to survive, and you're like, hold your breath and kiss me. That's just gross. Go clean your faces. So they're all survived, and Gail's alive. Really, nobody in this movie that was important died. No one. Not one.
Yeah.
Every one of our main characters made it through.
Yeah.
Like all the killers died, and then like Annika died.
Right, but it's like really none of those people mattered.
They were all new characters, so I don't think we're ever going to get new characters.
No. So Sam,
they always kill
we wrap up with Sam staring at Billy's ghost face mask. You know, we're almost like, oh, is she going to turn? And she just drops it and walks off. We're like, oh, okay, there we go.
I've seen like theories of people saying it's her because after every killing they drop the mask and then she drops the mask. That doesn't even make sense. Especially when
it's like these people theorize, like, if you watch the movie, we've seen people murder.
Yeah.
Like, clearly it's not Sam. But whatever. So, that's Scream 6. Let's grade this thing. We're already at like the hour mark.
Right.
I told Ella, we'll be out of here like 4:15. So, what grade you giving it, Ella?
I like the fifth one more, so maybe like a B, okay. Because I liked the whole movie. It's just the ending I wasn't very happy with.
I agree with you there.
It was just like confusing because I didn't even like Richie.
Right. Yeah, nobody did. Even Sam didn't like. Amber's the only one that liked Richie. Courtney, what are you giving it?
Yeah. I'm going to go with the C+, just because this one was just kind of like all over the place. And I felt like you had mentioned earlier, it was kind of choppy in some scenes. Like, just some of that stuff you could have taken out and it still would have been just as good as a movie.
Yeah. I'm going to go with a C. It was entertaining enough, but it really... Did you ever watch Glee, Courtney?
Yes.
This movie suffers from the same problem that Glee suffered with. You had your original cast, and the show was pretty great. And then you started, while you still had the original cast, you tried to introduce the future of Glee, because you knew that obviously this is a high school show and you can't have your original cast in high school forever. So then but then when you brought in the new cast, you brought them in too quickly and nobody connected with them.
Yes.
And now you're trying to like shine the spotlight on these people that we don't ultimately really care about. And that's really how I feel this movie is it's like the second wave of Glee. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's still enjoyable.
Yeah.
Because there's parts of it, like Sue Sylvester was still Sue Sylvester, you know, but it's like the main focus of the movie is made up of characters we don't care much about.
Yep.
Like, I have no history with these people, and yet you're trying to be like, well, no, like she's the new Sydney, and these guys are the new Randy. I'm like, but they're not Sydney and Randy.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not really connected here. So that's where it gets a C. Like I said, there were other parts. I thought the tension was pretty good. Mm-hmm. The end was soft. Again, because it's like, if I don't care about my main characters, why would I care about my secondary characters? Yeah. And so I don't know. It really felt like Jason at the beginning of the movie. Somebody in a Ghostface mask that clearly doesn't have the chops to be Ghostface. And this has the ingredients of a Scream movie, but just doesn't have the chops to be a good Scream movie.
I liked the fifth one more just because all of the characters were new, so you didn't know like who was suspicious.
Well, and
then like in this one,
you
knew in this one like most of them you knew were not the killers because they weren't in the last one.
Well, and I think another big problem that this movie, part 5 and 6, suffer from, and it's not their fault, I will admit that it's not their fault, is the main character of 5 and 6 is Sam. However, because of her other success and other things, Jenna Ortega is the draw to these movies, and she's not the main character.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it really difficult for people to watch because she's not the main character. But yet that she's the one everybody knows. Mm-hmm. And so when they're watching this and they keep seeing Sam shoved down our throat and everybody's wanting to watch Jenna and Jenna's not getting enough time, it's confusing.
Yeah.
It's like you would think that that the biggest name actress in your movie is your main character, and she's not. She wasn't in 5, she's not in 6, and she's not even in 7.
Mm-mm.
So it's like, okay, so you're going to leave this in Sam's hands?
Yeah.
Which she's fine as an actress, like really, but she's just overshadowed by the success of Jenna Ortega. And so I feel bad for her because it's like, she's like, you know, Melissa Barrera, who's Sam Carpenter, she's doing a fine job. But she just
didn't play Wednesday Addams.
Yeah, she's just overshadowed. Well, and not only that, but even in the horror circle,
Yeah.
I mean, things we've talked about.
Yeah.
You know, she was in this. She was in X. She was in Studio 666 with the Foo Fighters. She was in, you know, Scream 5. I mean, Jenna Ortega has been in quite a bit of horror stuff. And then it's like, oh, we're going to have her in here, but she's going to be the backup. And I'm like, it just doesn't fit with a lot of people. So, let's, for the sake of time, let's skip a lesson.
Okay.
And that's fine. So, yeah, that's it for Scream 6. And this was kind of a pseudo shuffle because we wanted to get Ella back on the show, but it did fit into our shuffle week. And so I told you pre-show, I've got three adjective choices for you. And I'm gonna spit them out and you choose which one you want. And then I'll tell you what the movie's going to be. Okay. So choice number 1 is classic and scary. Okay. Choice number 2 is highly rated but foreign. Choice number 3 is I've not seen it. Probably terrible but gory.
When you say foreign, like, is it subtitles?
It's in a foreign language. It's in Spanish. So it'll be subtitled, yes.
You know what?
I'm okay with,
you know what? Let's do it. Let's do the foreign.
Highly rated and foreign. Okay. We then for next week are going to watch a new release this year, 2023's When Evil Lurks. When Evil Lurks. In a remote village, 2 brothers find a demon-infected man just about to, quote-unquote, give birth to evil itself. They decide to get rid of the body, only to end up intentionally spreading chaos. I looked at 2 or 3 different best horror movies of 2023, and this movie was at the top of every list I looked at.
Okay.
So When Evil Lurks will be our movie for next week. The other 2 choices would have been the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
That was classic and scary. And the other one was a movie I hadn't even heard of until today. I saw it on a list of terrible horror films we watch anyway, and it's called Carousel. And it is about a carousel horse that has had enough and has removed himself from the carousel to seek revenge on the people that have wronged him.
Oh, man. Those poor people.
And I think the budget was like $5,000 and was spent 100% on the gore. And it was when I watched the trailer and I'm like, oh, I have to watch this. That one, it's on Tubi
so
and Plex.
Dumb.
What, kiddo? It will be ridiculously stupid. And there's 2 sequels.
Aren't the carousel horses like not eat like plastic?
His name's Duke.
Duke.
Oh, and it's like they have a carousel horse that they just kind of. It looks fantastic, like just ridiculous in every respect of the word. So it will show up on our show at some point because it's one when movies like that cross my radar and I'm like, I have to watch this movie.
Yeah.
Like I just have to. So we will definitely have to watch it. But yeah, it's got 2 sequels. In part 2, he finds out he's dad. So
oh my goodness.
Yeah. There's a baby carousel horse. I love it. Oh, it's so dumb. But I love it when people are like, I have an idea and I don't care how stupid it is. I'm making it.
I'm going for it.
So, all right. Well, we're going to watch When Evil Lurks for next week. Social media wise, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all those things you're supposed to do. And Ella, we're going to have to find a new franchise to bring you in on.
I want to do the carousel horror.
Because yeah, that's fine. Let me take a look at it first and make sure it's appropriate. But if not, because it was sad where it's like, hey, this is a movie franchise that we've watched and had you on the show with, and now we're done with them.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to find another kind of safe franchise that to bring you in where there's not a lot of like romantic scenes and a lot of nudity and things like that. So we'll have to investigate and see what we can find. So, well, we might get one more episode in before Christmas.
Yeah, I would think so.
I think we would. Yeah, we should. We'll get another episode in next week. But that's it. Ella, you got anything you want to say before we go?
No.
Okay. Courtney?
Just have a good Christmas, and teachers hold out those last couple days.
Yeah, you're almost there. We're almost there. So for another episode of Deducation, I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
And I'm Ella.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week with When Evil Lurks.
Bye.